an award shortly. Kathy, are all of these people here for you? You've done it again. It's 1 o'clock. We are calling this meeting to order. We are in presence of the clerks, and we do have full quorum of council members. Our second item on our agenda is our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges their resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Item 3. Are there any additions to our agenda? Seeing none. Item 4, confirmation of the council agenda, please. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Mark, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 5, declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Are there any declarations this afternoon? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. Public question period. That's not for the friends of Kathy. We don't have enough time for that. Do we have any questions from press? Do we have anyone online, or shall we move on? Move on. Thank you. Presentations. Item 7 on our agenda. Senior of the Year Award presented to Kathy Concrete. In light of the fact that we are recording this, they've asked me to stay in position here, Kathy, until just a few moments from now. And I will be commenting about your award today. Yes, Kathy Concrete is our 2023 Senior of the Year. And I have some very nice things on this piece of paper. However, before we get to those, I have a couple of thoughts of my own. First of all, I believe I've known Kathy for 30 or 40 years. And when I came into the parking lot a few minutes ago, I remembered the first time that I saw Kathy, that I figured out who she was. And I think some of the Coles that are here with us today helped me sort out who Kathy was and where she lived. And that item that I had that recollection from is that motorcycle outside. Does everybody in the room know that Kathy used to ride a motorcycle? Kathy? Was that a Harley Davidson or what was that? Anyway, I first saw Kathy at the counter trying to figure out who she was because she was there in a leather bomber jacket. Kind of a sharp looking outfit. I went out into the parking lot and I saw this motorcycle there and I went, it's almost summertime. Why would, Kathy driving a motorcycle. Now I'm going to fast forward to my most recent prior to today engagement with Kathy, because there's a bunch in the middle that we need to avoid. But it was just last week. And my wife, who's here at the back, and I went out to give the formal invitation to Kathy. We had spoken before. And outside, there were several people doing work. Not Kathy, but several people outside doing work. And I thought, she's done that for years. She's focused a lot of people in what jobs they needed to do and did a very good job of that. Anyway, Joanne made it in the house before I did because I was engaged in conversation. Finally, I toddled on through, and here's Kathy relaxing watching the horse races on TV. And I kind of looked at the TV and I looked at Kathy and I said, do you bet on the horses? She said, well, not these ones, just when I go to Peterborough. Kathy, that's the end of my comments about you. As you know, when I said that I had the opportunity to present the award to you, you kind of went, oh no, because I might know too much. So I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to read highlights of what came in with your nomination. Kathy Conkright is a longtime supporter of the Legion and what it stands for. She's been a member of the Legion for 13 years and has taken an active part in all aspects of the Legion. A member of the executive committee for many years, where she has chaired several committees such as entertainment, sick and visitation, and the lottery. As chair of these various committees, she has strived to support the local community by promoting and using local businesses and individuals in conjunction with Legion activities. In her capacity as chairperson, Kathy also reaches out to individuals and organizations in the community that require financial support that the Legion can provide. Kathy is very active in the community and is always taking part in many activities in support of individuals and businesses. She's a great asset to the community and Legion, as she has a large circle of friends. Anybody doubting that? And acquaintances that she calls on to achieve her goals to improve the community that she lives in. Kathy is instrumental in raising funds for improvements to the Legion Cenotaph and to the Legion. Kathy is always at the door for events at the Legion, where she greets the attendees by name and makes them feel welcome. Be it the Veterans Dinner, the New Year's Levy, or just a Legion dance. Kathy, I think that sums up a lot. I would like to step down away from this microphone, and I would like you to come forward, and we have a couple of presentations for you, Kathy. The rest of you council members are going to get direction. Kathy, right here, please. I'm going to show you these and hand them to you later so that you don't fall over both numbers. So, actually, maybe we'll get one of the gentlemen behind us to step forward. One second, Mr. Butcher. Senior of the Year 2023, presented to Catherine Humphrey by the municipality of Township of Hamilton. And this is provincial recognition. Well, I'll show you that. And I'll give that to the whole. And Township must not have quite as good a budget. We don't get a frame. Yeah. But this one means a lot to me. And I hope it does. Corporation of Township of Hamilton, certificate presented to Kathy Conkright in recognition, Senior of the Year Award. And I'll hold down. Kathy, they're not that happy. All right. You know, one more item, Kathy, if you would like. Our deputy mayor Larry was coming forward.
Okay.
Come in, talk
Okay.
on this
Good,
side.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Step up around, guys, please.
Excellent. Ask me, I never said a few words in my life.
I'm glad I don't have any characteristics like you.
I want to clear something up right now. I've known Scott Jim a lot longer than 30 years, but he doesn't want you to know how old he is. I'm very pleased to see so many of my family here today. I didn't count them yet, but about 20, I think. And believe it or not, they all make my life richer. They do things for me. Most families do. I wanted to mention in particular Doug and Cindy at the back. Doug's kept my place looking nice on my horse's bed for 16 years. And also I wanted to mention Brenda and Neil. Neil Manley, his parents went to get a baby from the hospital. So I thought, oh boy, we're getting a baby at my house. Guess what? They took the baby home with them. And then same thing happened a few years later when my sister Helen was born. Manley's went in with the new car to pick them up. And when they got home, Neil was outside the house pacing back and forth. And Artie McAllister came along and said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I'll tell you what's wrong." He said, "My parents went to get the baby to the hospital and the Bamsies took it home." Now I have to mention Barry Parker. Did you hear? Yeah. He did make it. Okay. He was going to go on a big trip, but decided to wait an hour or so. My son died a few years ago, but I've always had a son, Barry Parker. I get on that phone, and he can go down. Going down to fix the water or whatever is wrong at my house. Now he's looking after a couple more people. Sorry about that, Barry. You can handle it. I've been so fortunate to have the calls from my neighbors. If you want something done, you go and get Alan Cole and he'll do it. If he doesn't, there's something wrong. Also, Donna, where are you? Put your hand up. There she is. My neighbor was after me too. And Linda working right here in the front row. I taught all her kids at school, 4 kids, and she thought that she had to pay me back. Well, she's been paying me back for a long time. She pays my house, does my hair, and anything else I need done. Thanks, Linda. And last but not least, my friend Margaret Prescott. There. My best friend, Margaret. A few years ago, I turned 80 and Margaret turned 90. We're still celebrating. If I didn't mention anybody like June, and has been my friend for years, she finally caught up to me. She's now the same age as I am. A long time. When I started teaching at Plainville in 1961, there was a little boy there, Bruce Pines. Here he is again today. Helping me out.
How well did you do in class?
Pretty good.
Okay. What's your opportunity?
I have hundreds of friends all my life, through the Legion, the church, and my school days. I have to mention my friends Roger and Isabel at the back. If they look tired, it's because I beat them to death to do jobs with that Legion all the time. They'll be okay. Diane, Margaret's daughter over here, she's been taxiing me around for a long time. And before that, Lynn Jordan. Put your hand up higher, they can't see it. Lynn Jordan came and looked after I broke my hip, and she also has taxied me around the last couple of years. I've got to tell you, for a month or so, maybe more now, she came to take me to COVID, went to the dentist and the doctor. So away we went into COVID, parked in front of the COVID clinic, she gets out and goes in. I figured, what's she doing in there so long anyway? The nurse came running out, Kathy, she said, Lynn Jordan fell into the clinic. Over elbows. Then the sirens came, the ambulance and the police. And those policemen would not let me drive home. They say, you're not driving home, we're taking it in the car. And I thought Alan Cole would see me out that window going home in the police group. I want to thank the council for all you've done to help the Legion of Youth. Without you, it wouldn't be that positive.
That's great. Thank you, Kathy. Somebody's got to share, you know.
Or I forgot to mention, Cindy True is my medical power of attorney. Every time something happens, well, she calls me and says, do I pull the plug today or not? And it's not fire back.
This is why we can do these things when we're not in. It's- Excuse me. Please.
Yeah, there's you.
Thank you.
In a second, they'll move. We'll just. Well, let's get rolling here again. Today's kind of a special day. We've had Senior of the Year. And our next presentation is to our own staff for an accomplishment on unbelievable proportions. It's in respect to 7.2 on our agenda, the Government Finance Officers Association Presentation Award. And this is enjoyable. I don't know that we'll have quite so much character in this part of the presentation as previously, but I should like to call on Arthur, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor Jim. I think you're quite right. That'll be a hard act to follow. After the first presentation of a remarkable achievement of Kathy Concrete. We have a second presentation, however, today of remarkable achievement as well. And that's, I'm really excited and thrilled to be able to honor the dedicated staff who've received the prestigious Government Finance Officers Award for their contributions and their efforts in producing a budget in the last year. It's a testament, I think, to their tireless efforts and to their dedication to produce a quality product. And as a result of that, we're going to be honoring them today. Preparing a budget may seem like a routine task, but it's not. It's actually, and I'm reminded that it's a fundamental cornerstone of good financial accountability and responsibility. And it's not really just all about the numbers. It's also, and spreadsheets, it's also about building partnerships and cooperation. And the partnerships and the professionalism and dedication shows to the public that we're wisely spending the tax dollars in an efficient and very dramatic way. But it's also the partnerships that were built internally to the staff, the departments that all contributed to the budget and made sure that the final product was one that was very understandable and tangible to be a working document in the future. So I want to call up on the finance team to receive this award in just a moment, because I think we're going to do a very short presentation that may surprise you. So I'll sit down at this point.
Greetings from the Government Finance Officers Association. I'm Chris Paul, the Edwards Director. It's my honor to recognize exceeding the stage budget presentation. The purpose of this award program is to encourage and safeguard through a comprehensive and understandable budget that we believe will both improve transparency and trust. The earning the distinct budget presentation award, we met the demanding voter criteria. Such a record reflects the professionalism, commitment, and dedication of the organization leaders and finance. We hope that this award will serve as an example and encourage others to strive for the same high standards in their own budget process. Therefore, it's my privilege, on behalf of the Government Finance Officers Association, to present to you this distinguished budget presentation. Right.
I'm going to ask Mayor Scott Jibb to come down and the finance team to come up and to receive this award. So. We were going to recruit from a Kathy's crowd up here, but it looks like we have enough as it is. So,
You gotta get a little more on the.
Certificate of recognition for budget preparation.
No long extended speech, like, come on, somebody. Next. Just a note here, we have award-winning public here today. We have award-winning staff. Well, I don't think we have any award-winning counselors here yet, do we? Thank you to all staff. Thank you, Nezra. Our next item on our agenda is 7.3, the GRCA municipal overview. And as in several previous years, we have Linda and a couple of other staff who I don't believe I know that well. So Linda, please come to the podium and
Thank you.
feel free.
Thank you, Mayor Jib, members of council. I will introduce myself, Linda LaLiberty. I'm the CAO of the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. And I would like to introduce Corey Harris. He is our Watershed Services Coordinator. And Ken Thazier is our Planning and Regulations Coordinator. Today, we just want to give you a brief overview of the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority, a little bit of a history, and then touch on the some of the legislative changes that have taken place. And I think I'm pressing that button, or do I have to point it? Is it? Oh, there, I'm good. The Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority is rich in history. The Ganaraska watershed was the first watershed in the province of Ontario to be studied by A.H. Richardson. And on the basis of the Ganaraska watershed report, which was written by Mr. Richardson and the Guelph Conference, the conservation authorities were formed in 1946. The background of this slide is actually the minutes of a meeting that was held to discuss the Ganaraska watershed project. And it says it was held before an audience of 350 enthusiastic people. So that was actually the first meeting of the Conservation Authority. Should I point it this way or should I maybe? Okay. There. The Ganaraska River Watershed Conservation Authority, now known as the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority, was established in October of 1946. We were actually the third conservation authority in the province of Ontario to be formed. The others formed in July of the same year. And the first tree was planted in what is now known as the Ganaraska Forest in 1947. I may have to say this every time. Am I not clicking this correctly? There. Conservation authorities are formed with three fundamental principles. One, that they are a watershed-based jurisdiction. So unlike municipalities that are politically based, conservation authorities are formed on or political boundaries. Our boundaries are a watershed rather than a political boundary. And so that means that what happens upstream impacts what happens downstream. The second is that it's local decision-making. So the Board of Directors of the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority are made up of elected officials rather than ours are not appointed, but they are elected officials. And Councillor Lovshin and Councillor Butter sit on our board. Councillor Butter is the agricultural representative, which the Ganaraska is one of 6 conservation authorities in the province to have an agricultural rep on our board. Funding principles are another principle of the conservation authorities. We have authority generated revenues of 54%, and that's made up of our timber contracts, any fees that we charge, any fundraising. Municipal levies make up 45%, and that's our general and benefiting levies. And then the provincial government, the Section 39 funding of $51,863 makes up approximately 1% of the funding of the budget. Oops, I went, okay, no, it skipped. This slide shows the watershed of the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. We cover 7 municipalities in whole or in part. Conservation Ontario is the umbrella organization over the 36 conservation authorities in Ontario, much like the Association of Municipalities of Ontario is to municipalities. Conservation Ontario is to the 36 conservation authorities. The Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority has 5 program areas: watershed management and health monitoring, and that's made up of our flood forecasting and warning, our geographic information program, environmental advisory services as our planning, our plan review programs. Watershed stewardship is our community-based programs such as tree planting, clean water, healthy lands. The conservation land program, which I'll get to, is made up of 9 conservation areas, as well as the Ganaraska Forest, which is our 11,000 acre forest. It's a multi-use forest. The Ganaraska Forest Center, where we see over 9,000 students coming in for curriculum-based programming by our Ontario certified teachers. And then we have corporate services, which is a program that supports all of the other programs within the authority. The Ganaraska Forest Center, as I mentioned, is home to our outdoor education program, as well as on weekends, it's Boy Scouts and Girl Guides, and also serves as a wedding venue to many couples over the past few years. Now, just a brief update on some of the legislative changes that all conservation authorities have gone through, the changes in the Conservation Authorities Act. A little bit of background: on December 8, 2020, Bill 229 received royal assent. Schedule 6 amended the Conservation Authorities Act, and those amendments included changes to the terms of the chair and the vice chair within a conservation authority, as well as changes to stating that board members should be representatives of elected officials. As I've mentioned, Ganaraska has always had elected officials. However, there can be some exceptions to that. It was also included were the introductions of the programs and services categories. There were 3 regulations under Bill 229. The first being 6821, which speaks to the mandatory services and programs. It lists the prescribed programs that are mandatory to a conservation authority, and those are covered by general levy. Now, all of the programs of the conservation of the Ganaraska are covered by the category 1, which we will speak to. But this regulation came into effect January 1st of 2022. Regulation 68721 speaks to the transition plans and agreements for the programs and services. This came into effect on October 21st, and it stipulated that each conservation authority must create a transition plan. And basically that's an outline of the timelines that were required and how, in our case, the Ganaraska was going to complete those requirements. The next is the agreements and the programs of the service, agreements for programs and services. And that stated that there had to be MOUs or agreements for our programs and services. The third regulation speaks to the conduct in conservation areas. Each conservation authority has their own right now regulation. So there's 36. This is to combine all of those 36 under one common regulation, and that would be applicable to all 36 conservation authorities. And this regulation has not come into force yet. As I've said, Regulation 687 speaks to the mandatory programs and services as well as the other two categories. So there are three categories. One being, as I've mentioned, the mandatory. They're laid out in the regulation, and this is where municipal levy can be used, and there does not have to be an agreement. So Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority places all of the general levy within those category one under those services. And let me say right now, the municipal levies that Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority has, and these MOUs that we are now going to be going into municipalities to get signed, there's not going to be an increase in the levy. This will have no increase in the levy other than the yearly increase that is put forward by the Conservation Authority. So Ganaraska are keeping their levies the same for all our municipalities. So that's the category one. Category two are municipal programs and services that a conservation authority carries out on behalf of a municipality. And in those places, we normally have some type of agreement already in place, but there will be more of a formal written MOU in place, as well as category three, which are other programs and services. And for the Ganaraska, those would be our Clean Water, Healthy Land, and the municipalities participate in those. Township of Hamilton does participate in that program, as well as our outdoor education program is a category three. That is self-funded, so through user fees, so there would be no MOU required for that. The programs and services inventory that I was speaking to, as you can see from this slide, category 1, 2, and 3, we did this is a more condensed, and we did a comprehensive full inventory that was circulated in February of 2022, and that was sent out to all of our municipalities. But this shows you the categories and where the various programs fall into. So category 1, as I've said, that's where our general levy falls. Category 2, that's benefiting levy. Those are paid for by the municipalities. And category 3, again, are generally either self-funded or paid for by the municipalities. A review of the timeline in this is very similar to what our transition plan, a concentrated transition plan. So December 31st, 21, we completed our transition plan and it was circulated to the municipalities. February 28th of 22 was the deadline for the programs and services. That draft was completed and again circulated for review by the municipalities. By the end of this year, or January 1, 2024, we must have completed the MOUs, the agreements with the municipalities, memorandum of understanding, and completed the final programs and services inventory. So those are what we are currently developing. And then by the end of 2024, we need to complete 3 other documents: a watershed-based resource management strategy, a conservation area strategy, as well as a conservation land strategy. Some additional legislative changes that actually took place while a lot of the offices were closed on December 28, 2022, we received notification from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry that there were going to be additional changes that were taking effect 3 days later on January 1st. And some of those included that CAs were to identify Conservation Authority lands suitable for housing. Changes were going to be made to the CA's role in the planning process, and fees that were charged by the conservation authorities were frozen. With regards to identifying the lands, Ganaraska has identified no lands that are suitable for housing within our Conservation Authority owned lands. So now just turning to the update on the memorandums of understanding. As I said, they are currently being developed. The category 1s, where all of our general levies are concentrated, we do not require a MOU for that. However, you do require an MOU for category 2, and category 3 programs. But as I've mentioned, most of our category 3 programs are self-sustaining, with the exception as far as the Township of Hamilton as the Clean Water, Healthy Lands Financial Assistance Program that you currently participate in. That being said, Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority is going to do MOUs for all of our municipalities. They will be a 5-year term. And why are we doing an MOU for even some of our municipalities that don't participate in category 2 or 3? It's because we are going to put a clause within our MOUs that states a participating municipality agrees that in any given year, the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority could divert a maximum of 3% of the levy into a category 3. And why we're doing that is, and when we're speaking of our category 3, that would be our outdoor education program. In case something ever happened during a school year, if we do have contingency funds now, but if there was a school strike and we needed a little bit extra, or if something happened, that we could divert a maximum of 3% of the general levy into the category 3. That's a total of $37,000. What that means for Hamilton Township is roughly $3,900 that we would divert over from the current levy. But again, that's just a contingency. So it's just a clause. And that's why we're asking all of our municipalities to sign an MOU. So what are our next steps? The next steps are that we will be meeting with the municipal staff to speak about the MOUs. We'll finalize the MOUs and send them out to our municipalities, and hopefully be having further meetings in the fall, and then complete those and have those signed by the deadline of December 31st, 2023, and then continue to meet with our municipalities on the other 3 requirements that we have to have completed by December 31st, 2024. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to come and make this presentation.
Thank you, Linda. Just before I go to the group, how many municipalities would you be engaging with the MOUs?
7.
Thanks. Council members, any questions, comments? Bruce, I think you're heading that way.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wondered, you mentioned that there's 7 conservation authorities that have received the agricultural sector representative. You know, if they are going to do more, why they have picked those 6 and what the process is. I actually had an email this morning from one of my Ontario Federation of Agriculture counties asking if I could find that. So I'll ask you first.
I could speculate why. At the time, we were under the Ministry of the Environment. We're now back under MNRF, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And Minister Piccini was the minister at the time of well, he still is the minister. And the thought was that most of the Northumberland conservation authorities are the ones within his riding, because Lower Trent also has, so that they received, as well as St. Clair though, and that's way down, St. Clair is way down near Windsor. They all received agricultural reps. Other than that, I really have no explanation, and there has been no further indication that there's going to be additional representatives. So I can't be a bunch of help. And
Anything further, Bruce? Mark, you get your questions all answered at a different level? John, please.
You, Mary Jim. You mentioned that all conservation authorities are going to come under one umbrella for the regulations. When will that take place?
I can't answer that. They have not told us when that will happen. So currently all 36 are under their own, but I must say all of the regulations that we're all under are very similar between the 36. And that's for the conservation areas.
Anything further? Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
It would be appropriate to have a mover and a seconder to receive the GRCA overview. Moved by Mark, seconded by John. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 8.1. We need a motion to go into public meeting. It is recommended that the council of the corporation of the township of Hamilton enacts as follows. That the council go into a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act at 1:44 PM on June 20th, 23. Motion, please, Larry, seconded by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 8.2. It's the returning application of the Carmen Bell property known, don't have the address, so I can't finish that. Zoning bylaw 11-21. Sandra, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If please council go through the process of the public meeting. As his honor has said, we are going into public meeting. As the planning coordinator, I will give a synopsis of the planning report, and the entire report is available on the township website. The floor will then be open to the public. The order of speaking is as follows: those persons in support of the application, those persons in opposition to the application, those persons seeking clarification, and the applicant will have an opportunity to speak at the end. If you wish to speak, please make yourself known by raising your hand and you will be called upon accordingly. All persons wishing to speak to the application must address their comments and questions to the mayor. And before speaking, you must approach the podium here to speak directly into the microphone. And
Sandra,
with
just on that microphone comment, could you bring your own microphone a little closer, please?
Okay. You must clearly and slowly state your name and address so that the clerk can ensure the record is complete. Following public input, members of council may make comments and ask questions as they deem necessary. A bylaw may be entertained at a later point during the regular meeting of council. The reasons for council's decision and the impact of public input will be provided by the council members. Please note that those persons requesting a copy of the notice of decision must do so in writing to myself, the planning coordinator, or you may sign the file sheet in the lobby. Please make sure you're signing the correct sheet to get the information that you require. As noted, the first application is ZBA 1121, which is a return of the Bell application for 5714, 5706, 5704, and 5896 Rice Lake Scenic Drive. The notice of public meeting was circulated to the neighboring property owners on May 29, and the signs were posted on the property on May 14 in accordance with the Planning Act. As noted, this application was before council in July of 2022 for public meeting. Unfortunately, at that time, the required survey information was not available as it was anticipated to be. Council did hear public input, and they deferred the decision until the information from the survey was available. The purpose and effect of this application is in fulfillment of condition of consent to sever applications B 12, 13, and 14 of 2021, reestablishing lot lines and recognizing the lot dimensions. The proposal is apparently in keeping with the provincial policy statement and the township official plan as previously discussed before council. With respect to the zoning bylaw, the subject lands are zoned waterfront residential with an environmentally sensitive area overlay. The waterfront residential zone requires approximately 2 acres of land and 150 feet of road frontage on a year-round maintained road. However, the proposed lots will not benefit from these dimensions. Together, they're only 2.27 acres of land and have 252 feet of frontage. Individually, 5714 Rice Lake Scenic Drive being the most easterly portion of the property that's being severed under B 1221. This parcel will enjoy 3,800, almost 3,900 square meters of land and 90 meters of road frontage. There's a one-story frame building and 2 frame sheds on the property. Following a road widening from the county, the principal building will enjoy a setback from the front lot line of 15.49 meters and a setback of 12.7 meters from the rear lot line, being the high water mark. The detached accessory frame building or shed that sits proud of the principal building will enjoy a setback of 11.41 meters from the front lot line. With respect to 5706 Rice Lake Scenic Drive, being the second parcel severed, B1321. This parcel will enjoy 1,062 square meters of land and 19.98 meters of road frontage. There's a one-story frame cottage and a metal clad shed on the property. Following the road widening requested by the county, the principal building will enjoy a setback of 8.69 meters from the front lot line. It must be noted that there is currently a travel trailer that straddles the lot line between these 2 parcels. Buildings and structures cannot straddle lot lines. This must be removed from the site or relocated to one of the properties to be in conformance with the required setbacks. In addition, while the travel trailer has been in this location for a great number of years, it does not conform to the permitted uses identified in the current zone or in the previous zoning bylaw. Removal of the non-permitted use would be the best course of action, and this has been discussed with the applicant. However, removal appears to be of some concern. Recognition of its existence as a waterfront resort commercial use would not be appropriate within the residential zone, as it would then permit future replacement of the unit as a permitted use. If council wishes to permit the existing structure on a temporary basis on one of the properties within the required development parameters, it's then suggested that the commercial travel trailer be removed at the end of its life cycle without replacement. With respect to 5704 Rice Lake Scenic Drive, being the most westerly of the consented parcels, this parcel be 1421. This parcel will enjoy 1,764 square meters of land with 27.57 meters of road frontage. There's a one-story frame cottage and frame building on the property. The principal building will enjoy a setback of 11.4 meters from the rear lot line, which is a high water mark. And the frame building will enjoy a setback of 1.6 meters from the rear lot line. The retained parcel, being the extreme westerly parcel of the subject land, 5696 Rice Lake Scenic Drive. This parcel will enjoy 2,057 square meters of land with 24.72 meters of road frontage. There's a one-story frame house, 3 frame sheds, and a frame gazebo on the property. The principal building will enjoy a setback of 16.27 meters from the front lot line and 1.01 meters from the interior side lot line. The middle frame building will enjoy 1.8 meter setback from the side lot line. The most northerly frame building will enjoy 1.94 meter setback from the front lot line. The gazebo will enjoy 2.74 meter setback. I'm sorry, from the side lot lines. All of the accessory buildings are from the side lot lines. All other aspects of the zoning bylaw appear to be met. It's the opinion of this department that the proposal for zoning amendment reestablishing the lot lines is in keeping with the governing documents. The comments received from the various commenting agencies were supportive of the proposed reestablishment of lot line and of the zoning amendment. So in conclusion, it's recommended that the bylaw that has been prepared for council's consideration be adopted, as it will assist in the creation of the lots for future conveyance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sandra. I shall turn to the audience. And I see that our applicant is here. Any of you wishing to speak to this may wish to do so. I'll ask for those who are in support of the application. And if you're the applicant or agent, you will have an opportunity after we go through committee questions, if there are any, council questions, if there are any. So those present in support of the application that would like to be identified, please come so that we can all hear, including on the tape, to the microphone if you wish. Feel free to speak if you wish to do so. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this moment in time in support of the application? If not, I'll go to, is there anyone here in opposition to the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here seeking clarification on the application? Seeing none, I'll go on to committee members. Any questions or comments from committee members? Please, Mark.
It's a question for Sandra, I guess, dealing with the trailer that was mentioned that's on the straddling those two properties. You've mentioned in here to leave it for the life of the trailer. Is that, how will we know when that is? And how do we know that it's not simply replaced once that one?
Through the mayor, it would, when the trailer is ready to be removed and no longer habitable, that would be, I guess, the opinion of the owner of the trailer, which I believe to be a third party, not a member of the Bell family, who rents the land under the trailer. The trailer itself would need to be moved to one property or the other, if council is agreeable to that, at the appropriate setbacks. But when it's no longer habitable, at the opinion of the owner of the trailer, then it would be removed from the property and would not be able to be replaced.
But for our staff to actually go out and enforce the removal of the trailer when it's.
Well, if there is property standards complaint about it, I'm going to look to the chief building official to see if he has any words of wisdom regarding occupancy standards for a travel trailer.
Thanks, Sandra. They should be coming in to get approval of the unit. You'd normally see the approval under the sink in the kitchen for the type of unit that they're bringing in. On top of that, we do have aerial imagery pretty much every 3 years. That would give identification with respect to that new use being put in place. So, yeah, an opportunity if the property owner does come in to talk with us, and outside of that, it'd be based on our review, passing by on inspections. Not really an opportunity for us to monitor every year to see whether or not they've removed it. We don't do that at the township.
Is this something we can put as a condition on the zoning then, or does it go on title? How does that work?
I would take the bylaw back to my desk and tweak it slightly for your signature in a day or two. Recognizing that the trailer could remain on one of the properties at appropriate setbacks for its existing lifespan. I would just reword the bylaw a wee bit differently than it is before you today.
Any other questions? I have one in respect to the trailer as well. Thanks, Mark, for bringing that up. There's no suggestion that this trailer will need to meet today's standards, like it has an opportunity to be relocated. If that's the decision of the committee here, it can be relocated as is. No improvements need to be done. Am I correct? Okay. What is the age of this unit? Anybody got a ballpark?
I will defer to the property owner.
It's probably about, it's a gypsy type travel trailer, it's over 30 years old.
Okay, if I could stay with that train of thought, is it actually physically able to be moved if that's the decision?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not an undue request then to move it to one side of the lot line or the other. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any further questions?
Just to clarify, through you, Chair, has the trailer been moved? Yes or no?
No, it's Tom and I are side by side and neither one of us are bothered by the fact that it's not on that driveway. Why not say that?
Yeah.
It's very low.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you. We, of course, don't make a decision in this oh, sorry, please. Please.
Thank you for allowing me the time to speak, Worship. First of all, a travel trailer is one that can be hooked onto a car or truck and be moved around. It can be taken out of a spot and brought back in the following weekend. A park model trailer is one that is brought in, it is parked on the property, and it is almost like a house type. So when my husband and I bought our tourist camp, MPAC came in and the young fellow walked around with us and he said, this one here is park model. You're going to have to pay extra taxes on it. This one's not. So I said, what's the difference? He said, this one you can pull out and bring back. You can do that every other weekend or every weekend. Park models stay, they're taxed. So the trailer we're talking about here is the trailer. It's on wheels. It can be moved. If you look back at the time when it was put there, there was no, the council of the day had absolutely no objections to that trailer being put there on that property because they knew it was not a park model trailer. So in regards to what you're looking at, you need to know that this is not a park model trailer. It can be moved and with no problem at all. But it's a mother and daughter piece of property we're looking at here. So you got the bumper of a trailer hanging over on another piece of property. Doesn't matter. They can take it off that property. Next week, they can bring it back in, or after it gets approved here, they can bring it back in and park it on that spot. They can pull it out the next weekend and be gone with it. So I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you, the CAO at one time was with MPAC, and he can clarify that if I'm right. I don't think I'm wrong because that's how we went. And back in the spring of the following year, we had MPAC back in and we had removed all park model trailers out of our camp. So there was no taxing. So for what council's looking at here today, this should be no problem at all. It's a trailer that can be moved and put back in. And I think you need to, if you don't believe me, you can look it up and check it out yourself. And I would recommend to council that they approve this severance, these severances that are here. Thank you.
Isabel, I can
Yes.
call you by first name, as you well know. For the record, name and address, please.
Isabel High, 5811 Rice Lake Scenic View Drive, RR1 Gorse Landing, K0K2EO, phone number 905-342-3827. And I'm still married to the same man that I married back in 1969. Good enough?
Thank you, Isabel. Sandra, I guess I'm a little confused here. I know your report says relocate it to a lot rather than where it sits on two lots, if all this is completed. We certainly have the understanding that this thing is mobile. It could be where it sits today on Monday and on the south side of the road on Wednesday, sort of thing. Based on the fact that it is a trailer that's obviously identified as very mobile, are we still in the position that we need to relocate that to one lot rather than straddling the lot line?
I would say that we are. This is at best a detached accessory building for somebody. Therefore, it needs to be on your lot, not on the guy next door. The properties are being severed to one day be conveyed to other people. Be that tomorrow or 10 years from now, who knows? So when somebody comes along to buy the other lot and there's half of a trailer sitting on it, it's going to have to be moved at that point anyway. Let's bring it into conformance with the bylaw now while we have the opportunity to do so. And I say at best, it's a detached accessory building. It is a trailer. It is supposedly a habitable building. The township does not allow people to live in a trailer in a residential zone. Although the third party who owns the trailer, this is my understanding of the situation, is there basically for the summer and doesn't live there full time. They are still habiting that structure as a home, and that would be that's not permitted. It's being rented. The land is being rented out in a commercial fashion. This is residential land. We're creating a resort, commercial resort on a residential piece of property, and that would be in contravention of the bylaw. I do understand the structure has been there a great number of years, but it was put in contravention of the bylaw of the day when it was replaced, whatever, many years ago, again, in contravention of the bylaw. I have great difficulty recommending to council that this be permitted to stay. However, if it is permitted to stay for a specified number of years, should you so desire, or until the life of the structure is complete, it needs to be on one piece of property, and it needs to comply with the required setbacks of accessory buildings to the principal building in this particular residential zone. That's the only way to bring this into compliance with the bylaw, in my opinion.
Thank you. Does that generate any other questions or clarity or confusion?
Through you, Chair, I'm kind of confused over the bylaw, because if I have relatives come down and they want to stay in my trailer, which is on the next property, which abuts my property, and it's on right on the property line, and some of if I put the unit out, it's all right over the property line, then am I in contravention of the bylaw? If they come down and stay for a weekend, 3 or 4 days to stay in the trailer, like I just want where it gets confusing. Like, these people are going to come down and use it on a weekend or whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But is everybody that has a trailer or a unit like this that has on the property, their relatives come down and stay in it, are they in contravention of the bylaw?
You're looking at me with that question. I'm not so sure that I'm going to be answering that. Sandra, would you like to try and answer that, please?
The township is not of the ilk to get on top of somebody, you know, when their kids have a sleepover on Friday night, or you have relatives for a couple of days. A couple of days is one thing. Not that we're turning a blind eye, but by the time any complaint comes forward and we investigate, the infraction would be supposed infraction would be completed. But it's my understanding that the third party who owns the trailer basically rents land from the property owner. We're now in a commercial situation in a residential zone. We are perpetuating a resort commercial use in a residential zone. And it's not just for a couple of days here or there. Again, my understanding of the situation, it is for the majority of the summer months. If there's a detail that I'm missing, I'd be happy to hear from the applicant on that to correct me. But we do not allow people to live in trailers in residential zones. You have to be in a trailer zone that permits trailer usage and habitation.
There's and I heard you say it very clearly, that this unit would have been placed there, even though quite a number of years ago, it would have been placed there in contravention of the zoning bylaw, when that occurred.
Correct.
So there's never been any opportunity to have this unit as a commercial activity where they rent the land, never.
Not that I've been able to find out.
And your search has gone back prior to the placement of the unit there.
I believe I looked at the previous zoning bylaw 3137.
And it
I
was
can,
residential then.
from memory, yes.
See, many of these, forgive me, but many of these things are placed there for so many years, or are a replacement unit for one that was there prior to the municipality having a zoning document at all. And that's where I was going with my question is it there? Is there any opportunity that we could say that it's there legally? And it doesn't seem that information's.
It's my
available
understanding
to-
that zoning bylaw 3137 is a 1974 bylaw, so it's 50 years old. I do not believe, again, detail to the applicant, I do not believe that such a structure was on the property 50 years ago. I have heard 30 years, but if it was there prior to the bylaw coming into force and effect in 74, it does have a legal existing status, because we cannot penalize you when we change the rules halfway through the game. However, if it was put there after 74 in contravention of the bylaw, it's in contravention. It has an existing status, but it does not have a legal status.
Okay, committee's struggling a bit here. I think we do have some hands up at the back that might help us with some clarity here. Please. If you could, please come to the microphone so we can all hear. Okay.
Which included both the north and south side of the main road. I have photographs at home of tents that were placed just a couple of years, well, one day in 1921, where he rented out space on the lakeside for commercial use, I guess, call it then. And he rented some spaces and there was some tents. That was 1921 when all these properties were one piece of property, one deed. So I guess you could say that since 1921, part of that farm has been always rented out as a commercial or tourist. That's any bearing on what we're talking about here as far as precedent being set. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. And being the applicant, we shall note your name and address in our records. Any additional information that might assist the committee, please?
Thank you again, your worship. You already have my address, name. As Carmen has said, the property was in my father's name in 1921. I can tell you that in 1974, there was a trailer there. And it has been replaced, I don't know how many times. And I know it was there because I used to cut the grass down around there. And if the property were ever sold out of the family, it's been there 102 years in the family, but if it was ever sold out of the family, the buyer can say, we'll buy it with the stipulation that trailers are moved off the property. Simple as that, just as simple as that. No point in trying to push something over some old trailer that's sitting on a piece of property to irritate people and make things worse. The township is responsible to help their people here. And this fiasco that's been going on over this trailer site, over the severance is unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And it wasn't even the applicant's fault that this happened. It was between the municipality and the OMB or whoever for merging all the properties together in the first place. They should never have been merged together. And the expense that has happened and the further expense that's being asked to take place is not good. And I'm asking this council to put your compassion forward, let this go and quit harassing people. Thank you, Worship.
Oh, thank you. I mean, from a staff perspective, of course, they have a series of rules and regulations that they need to follow, they must follow. And the difficulty with any unit, any structure, when it straddles the lot line is, how do we get compliance with that? Sandra, you think you wanted to speak?
If you're really worried about places having trailers on their property and people living in it, you need to get out and take a drive around the township. Because there are people who are living in trailers around this township and the trailers are being hidden in behind bushes and behind other vehicles. I know they're there. I've seen them. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen them as well. So I'm just saying, let this go. Let it go.
Well, thank you,
If you're
Isabel.
letting
Thank
it
you,
go in
Isabel.
other places, it should be tit for tat all the way across.
Thank you, Isabel. Sandra, you wanted to speak probably on where we are in relationship to our rules and regulations and how we stick handle around them and how we get compliance. Please go ahead.
There are a number of things I wanted to touch on. The township did not initiate the consent application. When Mrs. Bell's father was creating his will, he created the lands, the 4 parcels by will in the 1980s, which at that time was legal. Effective approximately 1990, that was taken out of the Planning Act and you could no longer do that. So they were created legally. However, fast forward to 2020 and Mrs. Bell's solicitor was assisting her with various things and the land registry office identified a possible cloud on title because the lots were not created by consent. So Mrs. Bell's solicitor approached me and we went forward with the consent applications. This has nothing to do with the municipality initiating anything. It has nothing to do with the Ontario Municipal Board. This was the land registry office suggesting there may be cloud on title of the 4 lots because they were created by will and not consent. So bringing forward consent is clearing title. The fact that there were tents on the property in 1921 is a detail I was not aware of. So I appreciate the new information. Mrs. High spoke to other properties that have trailers on them. We are aware that there could be other infractions out there until such time as we receive property standard complaints or zoning bylaw infraction complaints. We do not go out investigating or beating the bushes looking for things like that. However, this particular opportunity is before us now through a side door avenue. So we are trying to rectify something that is available to us at this point. If Mrs. High wishes to approach staff with the proper complaint forms, we can then go out and investigate accordingly. And as his worship did say, we are trying to bring forward the rules and regulations to your attention so that you are aware and you can make well-informed decisions with respect to the request before you. Are there any other questions of me at this point? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The notice of public meeting was circulated to the neighboring property owners on May 29, and the signs were posted on the property on May 23, 2023, in accordance with the Planning Act. Purpose of this application is in fulfillment of condition of consent to sever B 0822 for lot addition to recognize placement of a well. This application is seeking to rezone part 1 on the reference plan, the lot addition lands, to be in keeping with the benefiting or the receiving lands. The proposal is in conformity with the provincial policy statement and the township official plan, and is appropriate under the zoning bylaw. The commenting agencies had no objections to this small triangle of land being rezoned. Bylaw has been prepared for council's consideration, and it's my opinion that it is appropriate and should move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll open this to the public, to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience in support of this application? Please, if you would come to the microphone, identify yourself, and would you like to answer questions or make a presentation? The opportunity is yours as well. Okay, and you are the applicant, and we will have name and address on file. Thank you. Is there anyone in opposition to the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here seeking clarification? Seeing none, I'll turn to the committee members. Any questions? Apparently, there's no questions, so we'll move on to the motion. Can I have a motion, please? Moved by Larry. And it is in support.
No, it's just.
Receive and file. My mistake. Receive, seconded by John. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, we need a motion to rise from a public meeting and reconvene to regular council, please. It's recommended Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council rise from a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act and reconvene to a regular council at 2:22 p.m. on June 20th. Moved by Bruce, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, application for cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes under section 357(1)(di) of the Municipal Act. For 3017 Harwood Road, which was a structure fire several months ago. Okay, if I could turn to our clerk, I'm a little confused here. Do we need a motion at this point in time? Okay, so it is recommended Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. Council go into a public meeting under section 357 of the Municipal Act at 2:23, June 20th. Thought I had that done, but anyway. For clarity, moved by Mark, second by Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Now, we heard of the property that's there for tax refund. I'll simply ask any questions or comments on that. Anyone here in support of the application? Seeing none, anyone here in opposition to the application? Anyone seeking clarification on the application? Seeing none, that shall all be recorded. Okay, now we need a motion to go from public meeting and back to regular council.
We have to receive that.
Probably.
Can you just clarify?
Received the information and a regular, public meeting or council meeting at this point, that's all we've done now. We'll be receiving the report and voting on the report later. So this, that's the steps.
Thank you. On this one page alone, we're in and out of public and I've been doing the best I can to get them checked off, but I'm not doing well. Okay, are we at 8.7 on our agenda? Okay. And motion to rise from a public meeting and reconvene to regular council meeting. Recommended by Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton Acts follows the council rise from a public meeting under section 357 of the Municipal Act and reconvene to a regular meeting of council at 2:25 p.m. on June 20th, 23. Moved by Mark, second by Larry. All those in favor carried. Thank you. Okay, now we're back into a planning bylaw. It is recommended the Council of Corporation of Township of Hamilton acts as follows. That bylaw 2023-37 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2001-58 as amended, Township of Hamilton Land Use Control Bylaw be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 20th day of June, 2023. And Sandra, just for clarity, that particular bylaw deals with the Bell property, does it not?
Bylaw 37 is for Jib Road, the Bowman Bowden property.
Bowman property, okay. That one's clearer in my mind. Moved by Mark, seconded by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 9.2. Zoning bylaw amendment 2023-38. It is recommended the Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. That bylaw number 2023-38 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2001-58 as amended. The Township of Hamilton Land Use Control Bylaw be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 20th day of June, 2023. And Sandra, for clarity, at least for me, that is the Bell application.
Correct.
Thank you. And John, would you like to move? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Larry. Questions or comments? Any modification that you would like to make? Mark, please.
Just a question. I'm not sure. I've looked at this and I don't see anything in here dealing with the trailer. What?
Yes, through your worship, the mayor, paragraph 9 on page 2 of 4 of the zoning bylaw. 1153D, that the commercial travel trailer be removed from the property forthwith. And also paragraph 12 on page 3, 1154F, that the commercial travel trailer be removed from the property forthwith. This deals with it being straddled on both properties. Okay, that's fine.
And for clarity, when we say has to be removed from the property, what we're really saying, it has to be located on a property?
I've written it so that it is totally removed from the property. But as I mentioned previously, if council wishes me to tweak the bylaw before them, I can have that ready with your new wording within 48 hours.
Okay, I have a question. Do others? Bruce, did you want to take the floor?
Well, I'm confused. I wasn't part of what ever happened before, but I don't understand why it is a travel trailer. They said it was a travel trailer. They said it could be moved. The only thing stopping this, or why don't they move it 5 feet, pull it off the property line, and then everything is clarified. I
have a note in the applicant saying that the trailer will be removed to one lot. Signed by. Please, so.
Okay, so then our staff have indicated a tweaking in place. Sandra, in order to allow the applicants an opportunity and you to have an opportunity to tweak this, do we go ahead and change that condition verbally here? What is our process that we need to follow?
I'll let the clerk correct me if necessary. I'm prepared to remove 1153D and 1154F. And then the detached accessory structure will be relocated to whichever property they choose at the appropriate setbacks. And provided they are at the appropriate setbacks.
With an opportunity that unit remain there until its time of life or whatever your phrase was.
Yes, and I will confirm with the applicant which property is going to go to, so then I can put that lifespan matter within the specialized zone.
Okay, and can we also deal with the word forthwith? Because these things don't happen necessarily forthwith. Can we look at a time frame that would be reasonable for both property owner and the municipality?
Yes, it would have to be done before I stamp the deed for the new lot creation, which I believe is September of this year. So they would have
Okay.
a
So-
small time frame.
So could your tweaking include prior to deed stamping?
Yes,
Okay. I'm asking, I'm certainly not.
I
committing
can
council
write
member
anything
to
the
it.
council wishes, and I defer to the clerk if I've misunderstood proper protocol.
Please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a bylaw on the floor. We have it moved and seconded. We've had it presented. It's certain clauses within 11.5.3 and 11.5.4. If we want to move forward today, we need to be really clear about what you're changing so that we can formally move an amendment to remove or strike these clauses that you've indicated. So there's a lot. So if I may, there's a lot of back and forth. I heard Sandra indicate that it may be removed. So are you striking 11.5.3D? Or are you going to remove the word forthwith and then have a specified time or a location? So rather than, so we do have a bylaw that's been presented, it's been moved and seconded. We do have to move forward with an amendment, and then we would change the document accordingly for signature after. But the council and the public needs to know what it is exactly that's being moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would be removing both of the sections that I noted to you. One of those sections would be replaced with the wording that the structure can be on the property with respect to lifetime, depending on which property it's going to go to.
Can we clarify now with the applicant is here to which
Sure.
property that they would like the trailer to be moved to, so that it's all clear today? Then it's done. You know which property it is that you would like to keep the trailer? 5696?
That's also something, Mark, if I might interject, that's something that they may wish to think about just after, and can share that with staff as well in a later date.
If they're comfortable today, though, I mean, it just clears the bylaw that we've dealt with it.
Going to a totally different piece of property now.
We just, so that's the WR3. The one that's showing up there, is it the WR3 one that you can see clearly?
The other option here is we could give this first and second reading and allow this to be clarified and give it a third reading in July.
Yes, that's a possibility. Yes.
And that doesn't mess up their opportunity for deed stampings.
Correct. Yes, I think that's
Okay.
probably the best
How
solution.
be to get some clarity here and just make sure we're 100% right. So we don't add to any more. difficulties. Could we consider the motion to be first and second reading? And then we can bring it back in July and give its third and final reading. In the meantime, it's all cleared up and it's straightforward and it does not affect the opportunity for deed stamping.
Correct. I believe that's a good idea.
I, okay, Larry, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, does this mean that this application has to come back to council for third reading?
Yes.
It would come back for third reading, but it would be a very simple process once the location is clarified.
I think I guess I don't have enough knowledge with this to understand the complexities of it, but it seems to me that it's so complex, we're making it when it's so simple to solve it. I mean, why are we spending so much time on a trailer, which isn't a secondary residence? It's a mobile trailer that somebody's using in the summertime. And we're spending oodles of time, but I don't understand. And maybe I'm just, I don't mean to throw a cricks in it, but I think we're spending this poor woman's money, time, and frustration, and I don't understand it.
I'm not going to attempt to answer your question because there is some concerns and different points of view in the answer. But what we're doing right now is we're looking at a motion to approve, which is certainly a positive component. We're looking at a solution to keep it there, which is a positive component. Yes, we are saying it can be moved, but we also have written note from the applicant agreeing to that. So that's all lining up. What we're doing at this point in time is just giving the opportunity to fine tune this so it doesn't get messed up on the wrong property in the wrong location and cause more grief in the future. And we can do that by first and second reading. And third reading, once that information is available, third reading is, I don't want to say a slam dunk, but for all sakes and purposes, it could be considered that. We do have a motion on the floor and we do have a seconder on the floor, and we debated an amendment to accommodate circumstances. And Daphne, I turn to you. Can we put an amendment on the floor and have that voted on? And have it adjust the original motion? I got a yes. Okay, so now we need clarity on the motion. We do have acceptance by the property owner that the trailer be located to one property prior to stamping of the deed.
Yes.
And the two numbers, D and F or whatever they are in different sections, will be amended to allow that. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a motion for that amendment? Anyone can make that motion.
So if I may, let's clarify by just through you, Mr. Mayor, if you would kindly withdraw your motion to move the bylaw, and then we'll just move it forward with a first and second reading, then a first, second, and third. So Councillors Davison and Deputy Mayor Williamson, would you withdraw your motion? And then.
Okay. So we get to make a new motion. Who would like to try that? John, would you like to try that again?
I'll motion that we move towards the new amended procedure.
Okay, here's a proposal that the council, the corporation of Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. That bylaw 2023-38 for Carmen Bell on Rice Lake Scenic Drive, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2001-58 is amended. The Township of Hamilton Land Use Control Bylaw be given first and second reading this 20th day of June, 2023, in order to provide an opportunity for the location of the trailer to be refined within clauses 11.53D and 11.54F of the bylaw. And I'm not sure that I'm thinking that's right, to be honest with you. The intent is to have D and F changed. So we keep the commercial travel trailer to be relocated to one property prior to the stamping of the deed. That's where I am to keep me online and simple. Sandra?
D and
please.
F, as they are before you today, will be stricken. One of those paragraphs will have a new D or a new F, as the case may be, with respect to leaving the commercial travel trailer for the to be removed by the date of stamping of the deed.
And
Is that helpful?
removed is relocated to one property.
Yes.
Mark?
I'm kind of where Larry is. I mean, I don't want to hold this application up for another month. I mean, they've said which property they were happy to move the trailer to. They've agreed upon that. Why can't we just move forward and be done with it?
Sandra,
Why-
would you like to comment on first and second reading? Clarifying, or would you like in a position to hear the property number and move forward with first, second, and third reading?
I'm satisfied with either direction, Mr. Mayor.
So let's turn to the applicant. Would you like us to identify the property today and go first, second, and third reading? We get a thumbs up. Okay, and that property, just for clarity, that property that we're going to move the trailer to will be not good enough, Carmen. I can't see that well.
And to 5706.
Okay. 5706 WR3. Okay. Okay. Now,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may, it's necessary to vote on that motion that we have on the floor, and once it fails, then you can move a motion to give it first and second reading as it was, with clarification for location of 5706.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? None.
No, you don't get to call. for
It's
that,
defeated. And I also have to ask, do I also have to ask those in opposition? No, not a recorded vote. Okay, that motion's defeated. Third kick at the can. John, I'm still looking at you. 5706 is the magical number. Okay. We haven't got that far yet. Seconded by Larry. Okay. All those in favor? Well, questions, comments? Correct. By the prior to the deed being stamped and eliminating. Arthur, just before we grab the vote, did you want to comment? Please.
Is we're removing the one line that says that it be removed from the property forthwith out of one clause and leaving it in the other, because you
No.
want it moved from the one and just move to the other. It would be okay. Is that not the case? Isn't that what we're really asking? Or are you approving to say, move the trailer to this property? I think you can accomplish it by simply deleting it from one of those the offending parcel. And then it's blank. It can then be moved to that parcel.
Okay, that makes sense too. So.
We
I-
got it. We're gonna tweak this to no end and we got it. The trailer stays on one property. And it has to be moved to the one property before the deed stamped.
Yeah,
But we
paragraph 9.
But we still have the clause when this trailer,
So paragraph 9 will be amended. Paragraph 12 will not be amended.
okay. Been moved, it's been seconded, and it's been dated forever here. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Where are we? I believe we're at 10.1 on our agenda. Council minute meetings dated May 16th. Can I have a motion, please, that the minutes of the May 16th, 23 regular council meeting be adopted? Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes? None. That shall be recorded. Committee reports. Motion to receive committee reports. The agenda items 12.2 to 12.6 on the June 20th, 23 regular council meeting agenda be received for information. Motion, please. Mark, seconded Larry. So that's 12.2, 12.3, 4, 5, and 6. Item 13, our agenda, Public Works and Infrastructure. Oh, yes, all in favor. Just trying to move it along a little bit here. Item 13, Public Works and Infrastructure. The tender for replacement of the UV reactors at Creighton Heights Water Treatment Plant. It's recommended that we receive the report tender for replacement of UV reactors for information, and that council award the replacement of the UV reactors at Creighton Heights Water Treatment Plant as specified in tender 2023-01 for a value of $86,250 plus HST to AWK Mechanical and Plumbing. And the council authorized the coverage of $15,000 overage to be funded from Water Capital Reserve. And a bylaw be approved to authorize the mayor and treasurer to sign and execute the contract with AWK Mechanical and Plumbing for the replacement of UV reactors at Creighton Heights Water Treatment Plant as identified in tender 2023-01. Can I have a motion, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? Recorded vote. Slowing us down again, Larry. Question, please, Don.
Through you, Mayor Jib, these UV lights, are they the same as in what's in Camborne? Like, in other words,
We'll get a
do
staff- we'll get a
create
staff
lights will have
report.
Camborne next, is this like,
Please, Anita.
To you, Mayor. Camborne does not have any UV units.
oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Recorded vote time, please.
Thank you. Council members, please, upon calling your name, answer yea or nay. Counselor Butter. Counselor Davison.
Yay.
Counselor Lovshin. Deputy Mayor Williamson.
Yay.
And Mayor Jim.
Yay.
Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13.2 on our agenda, fire hydrant on Maple Crescent. Recommended the council of corporation of the township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council receives report WTR 2023-007 fire hydrant on Maple Crescent for information, and the council approves the replacement of the old flushing blow off with a fire hydrant for a value of $30,000 to be funded from the hydrant reserve, and that council authorizes the manager of water operations to undertake the necessary work in compliance with the township's procurement policy to proceed with the project for a cost of $30,000. Motion, please. Larry, approve. Seconder. John, questions or comments? All those in favor?
Is it?
Apparently so.
Counselor Butter. Counselor Davison.
Yay.
Counselor Lovshin. Deputy Mayor Williamson.
Yay.
Mayor Jib.
Yay.
Carried unanimously.
Turning to 14.1 on our agenda. It is recommended Council Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council receives report Parks 2023-03 ICE allocation policy for information, and council approves the ICE allocation policy as presented. Moved by Larry, seconded by John. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Corporate Services, 15.1 on our agenda. Council receives report PNG 07-23, consent merger agreement, severance agreement for information. The mayor and clerk be directed to sign the consent merger agreement and return to the applicant, Mrs. Valencourt Henry, for the registration on title in fulfillment of a condition of consent. Motion, please. John, seconder, Mark. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Fifteen point two on our agenda. Council receives report PNG 08-2023 consent merger agreement, being the severance agreement for information, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized, be directed to sign the consent merger agreement, and return to the applicant, Derek Bowden, for registration on title in fulfillment of a condition of consent. Motion, please. Larry, seconder, Bruce. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 15.3. Reserve and reserve fund transfers. Is recommended council corporation of Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council receives report 2023-13, 2022 reserve and reserve fund transfers for information. And the council authorizes the treasurer to transfer fund 2/from reserves and reserve funds as part of the 2022 year-end audit. Motion, please. Moved by Mark, seconded by Larry. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 15.4 are 357 applications for refund, property taxes. Recommended the council of corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council of the Township of Hamilton receives report 2023-14. Applications per section 357 of the Municipal Act for refund of property taxes, and the council approves the write-off of property taxes for the total amount of $4,147.73 for a part of the 2022 and 2023 tax years, of which $1,826.11 is the municipal portion. Motion, please. Moved by Larry, seconded by John. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. 15.5 on our agenda, Habitat for Humanity, request for relief permit fees for 7-unit development in Baltimore. Is recommended the council of corporation of Hamilton Township enacts as follows, that council receives report 2023-15, Habitat for Humanity Northumberland request for relief permit fees for 7-unit development in Baltimore for information. And the council provides direction on one of the two following options. Option 1, the council provides relief to Habitat for Humanity Northumberland for all of the permit fees associated with the development of 7 affordable housing units at 4751 Highway 45 in Baltimore at a total cost of $13,962. And the council approves to fund building department revenue loss of $13,962 from Township General Reserve. Or option 2, the council does not waive the permit fees associated with the development of 7 affordable housing units at 4751 Highway 45 Baltimore. There was other information in the report that I think was critical as well. Could I have a motion, please? John?
A motion to approve option 1.
Thank you. Seconder, Larry, option 1. Thank you. Questions or comments?
That 13,000 will be treated like a donation then, Nezrat, rather than come out of their income.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if option one is approved, we are requesting to fund that revenue loss in building department from general reserve, township's general reserve.
Similar to a donation.
That's right,
So there'll be,
from township.
okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the question, Larry?
Just, oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in clarification, you indicate, I think it's $43,000 to the water from the Habitat for Humanity. There was some confusion on my part. It said each of 7 units, which would have equaled $321,000, which would have been a wonderful windfall, but not to be. Just want to make sure we clarify that well, I believe, I don't have that in front of me, but the actual amount was,
So the actual amount is $46,172. That's for all 7 units that they're
all.
volunteering
Right.
to contribute.
there isn't any mention of that on the letter that we received from Habitat for Humanity, but I would understand that that would be forthcoming.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did receive an email from them indicating this.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. That clarifies it for me. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. 15.6, Baltimore Esso. It is recommended the Council of the Corporation Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council receives report CD 2023-08, Baltimore Esso. LCBO satellite request to sell on holidays for information. And the council approved the sale of packaged spirits, wine and beer during the following holidays. New Year's, Family Day, Good Friday, Easter Monday, Victoria Day, Civic Holiday, Canada Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and further, that staff be authorized to notify the owners of Baltimore Esso of the approval in accordance with the Retail Holidays Act. Motion, please, moved by Larry, seconded by Mark. Any questions or comments? Bruce?
For you, Mr. Mayor, what does packaged spirits mean?
I don't have enough experience at that to answer that question. Does anybody in the room know?
Just I think
John?
it's when you stick it in the bag or it's in a box, which is a convenient package where it comes in, it's called a package. They can't just sell it like, here's your bottle. They gotta put it in an actual bag, so it's a package.
And I'll just quickly add, I'm sure that information comes from John's former police life.
Yes.
And that should be noted in our video.
John used to open it and really went in the bottle.
Oh, now we're out of order. We do have a motion and we do have it seconded. And we do have clarity from our police officer, former police officer. All those in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. I'm not so sure, Arthur, that are you going to be making a presentation of length here, Arthur?
No, I assure you will not.
I'm thinking we should take a 2-minute break just for. Yes. I don't think we need a motion to that effect. We're just on a 2-minute break, everybody. Oh. If I would stand up and move on.
If I may, thank you, Mayor Chip. I promised to not go over the document line by line, but I thought it's very important for council and our recorded version to hear the important components of our strategic plan and what we've been going through. And I'm really going to focus on the process in a moment. But I think it's important because this is the direction, the future direction of this council over the term, the next 4 years. And I think it's important that we talk about the strategic plan because it sets the overall direction, the overall leadership and management for the organization going forward. The team that has prepared this is really, in the broadest sense of the word, the team includes all the staff, but also council and the committees that and public that have put input into the document. And again, I think it's important because it will provide us a chart, a course for us and the organization, the community over the next 4 years. This document, I might want to also acknowledge just before I go any further, and it's both the form and the content and the attractive nature of the material. I want to thank Emily Cartledge for all of her work that she's done in helping pull this together and make it fit sort of our look and feel, and also have some very good background complementary information driven into it. She's been so integral throughout the process with the document, but also with the surveys, bringing that information together for the team. I wanted to acknowledge her substantial contributions to the process. So thank you for that. So if I could skip through the first part of the material, which I think is really helpful as far as setting the context, providing people an idea who pick up a document, what our township is all about, some history, some demographics, and some context. I wanted to look at page 5, which is the process, and talk about that a little bit more in detail. So in there, you'll see the 5 bullets that talk about a documentation review. And this is where we started with information related to the current corporate plans, the master plans for fire, parks and rec, the organizational review, and other documents keys to the building of the new strategic plan, which included our records information management plan and official land use plan. So all that information helps inform this process. At the same time, and you'll know this council wanted, and we wanted to ensure public engagement. So we started with a survey of the public that was available both online and hard copy, bringing that information into for the public to comment on. And in a sense, what was their perspectives on our values, our priorities, and the services that we could provide to the community. So in addition to that survey input was general input through our local advisory committees as well. We provided them with the opportunity to provide input into the draft plan. So we had that staff public engagement, but we also had staff engagement through that process where all staff were asked to look at how what the plan was and the connection to their connection to the plan in the prior cases, especially in relation to the work that they do, and of course to comment and input on the draft. And in the way of statistics, I could tell you that we had a fairly robust amount of comment through the surveys. We had over 214 public comments, responses to the survey, over 30 responses to the staff through staff processes, and as well, advisory committees provided 16 responses. So we had a fair amount of public input, staff input, advisory input in the building of this document, which was very satisfying to see. So as I push down through the bubbles on page 5, we've talked about documentation, the public engagement, also the staff perspectives, moving on now to the management discussion. All this information was starting to be brought together, the inputs, the surveys, the meetings, the discussions, leading to a SWOT analysis, which you're familiar with is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. These deal with both external threats as well as internal and the pressures. And we were able to bring that information in creating the plan. Fundamental, of course, though, is council's participation directly with the senior management team to review the SWOT, translate the survey, bring forward the potential goals, values, and of course, getting council's valuable political perspective on the current operations and future community needs. So with all that input, and again, that's sort of outlined in creating the plan, it leads us to the creation of a mission, vision, and values. And the ones that we've sort of developed upon, I wanted to highlight that our vision is making life better every day by creating a vibrant and prosperous township we are all proud to call home. And I know there was a fair amount of discussion about pieces, keeping it simple, making it very sort of tangible for people to understand. And I think we've got there with the vision that we presented and circulated and received comments on. A second component was the mission. And the mission that we've developed or prepared or bringing forward is to provide effective and efficient services delivered through accountability and respect to promote the social, economic, and environmental priorities of our community. And again, I think that helps highlight how we're going to be doing it. But fundamental part of that also is the values or other values that we rely upon, and something that the community and staff and council have all commented on. How are we going to operate and treat one another as we go forward? And we're talking about values such as accountability and transparency. It's a respect for one another, maintaining our service focus, as well as working together and being inclusive. And inclusive includes both a variety of interests and people, increasingly as people coming to the community of various backgrounds, bringing them in to ensure that we're representing them and in our discussions and into the community. I'm not going to go over all the actual individual components of our priorities on page 7, but I want to highlight that it comes down to 5 sort of important things. It's our people, it's the community, it's effective governance, it's protecting the environment, and it's ensuring responsible and sustainable development in the future. The various pages that you see outline some of the key things that we'll be working on over the course of the next several years. And it takes me to the implementation plan about how we're actually going to achieve some of that information, but also how we're going to report on it to council and to the public. And by that, we're looking at some of the reporting strategies. Will be including a report to council as part of an year-end report, but as part of the annual budget process. We'll be doing regular updates to our website, alerts, the residents' newsletters that you've seen, as well as media releases for major project updates. So those are some of the strategies, but we also want to have tangible numbers. We're reporting out on evaluation strategies. And that's where we talk about, we have the objectives that will be developed and reporting on our key results, but also statistical measures on some of the outcomes, number of paved roads, for example, or replacement of the capital facilities. So we're going to be looking at some statistic measures as part of the evaluation as well. And we'll be looking at annual year-over-year comparisons. The last component of our strategy is we report, we evaluate, but we also want to make sure we achieve as much funding support as we can, ensuring there's sound financial practices to achieve the results or the goals in the plan, and also looking for either other alternatives, whether it's public-private partnerships, sponsorships, administrative fees, or other grants, loans, and taxes. So I hope that gives you a sense of where we've landed with the strategic plan, the considerable input from the community, great work by various staff across all departments in getting it, and of course, relying upon the insights and guidance and thoughts from council to create the document that you see here for you today. So I'll turn it back to you, Mayor Jib, if there's any questions or comments on the material that's been prepared.
Turning to council members, any questions or comments? Don, go ahead.
Just have a comment, Your Worship. The environment, the goals. I want to put this out because Mario Mark is on the environmental committee, and I imagine Elame's probably there as well. The environmental committee, I believe they had 19 bullet points that they wanted to bring forward. I don't know how you pared it down to the ones that you have in the environmental goals. I know it's a living document. Is there any chance that they can go back and revisit some of those bullet points and either have changes in there or around them?
So it is a living document that we'll look at and update as we need it. So for example, if there's a big change in our environment, a big change in the general environment, if I could say, we need to update the plan. I remember seeing some sort of detailed recommendations that they may have had in the past. Some of those items are probably more appropriate in our departmental business plans about how we're going to achieve some of them. We know we get recommendations from the environment every council meeting, or depending upon whether they met that quarter or that series, we get recommendations from the environment committee as well. So I think there's a way we're trying to accomplish some of the major key ones that they're looking for as far as the reduction by 2030 of greenhouse gas emissions, like some of the very broader ones, some of the very targeted ones are probably better in the departmental plan. But as they provide comments through to staff and to council, we'll obviously be able to look at what those priorities should be and working with council, deciding upon what's policy or what requires financial assistance or what requires some kind of implementation plan as a result. Does that make sense? Like I don't foresee replacing these with 30 different ones. I think it's more right into the business plans where it's appropriate, and seeing that if something changes drastically, we have to change deadlines or change priorities, we will do that as part of sort of updates to the plan.
Yes, that answered my question, and it's very thorough. Thank you very much. I know that will be involved with the departmental plans and et cetera. So that's good. It's all going to be as one. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Larry?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Arthur, what are we going to be doing with the metrics to measure the performance? We have the implementation plan, but we talked about better works at one time, work plans, so that we can see what of these priorities that we have and where they sit, what's being done, and when we anticipate those being completed. I always go by the who, what, where, when, and why. That if we can see those and get reports, when you come back for reports, that we'd be able to see some of the accomplishments as they move along. And I think I shouldn't speak for you, Mark, but I think some of the frustration from the committee, the Environment Committee, is that we seem to be slow in some of our response to some of the actions that they're looking for. And maybe we should be, as you said, we call it drilling down into their projects and stuff like that, and sort of more of a focus on that as we go through the strategic plan in the future. But other than that, I think it's great. You did a great job of designing it. There's a couple of little things that I would do from a graphics point of view, but I shan't spend those times here because it's more cosmetic than anything else. So I leave it to you and thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Want to comment a bit? I do know that was mentioned at one of our meetings, and Bruce also sits in the committee with me. And it was mentioned that they don't see the points getting done, or is council acting on them. And I said, well, really, the points have to come from here to council so that they can act on them, because we're not aware of which ones we're going to move forward with unless you bring them forward. So I think they get the idea now, and I think that's going to come forward. The points that were brought forward at the last meeting were brought forward by wasn't really brought forward by the whole committee. It was brought forward by a subcommittee that was approved at the committee level. So we simply approved it because they did the work, and we said, we'll bring it forward, and then they'll come to council, and council can pick and choose. But a lot of those can be dealt with the committee itself on their own plan as they move forward. So, and some of them simply are probably off base and probably will get neglected or thrown away and not used at all. One thing that did come from that committee, though, that I thought I would bring forward today, they did ask on our vision statement to add one word, and it was add sustainability or sustainable after the word vibrant. And they felt that was very important to them. They want us to be sustainable, and that was by all committee members, and including myself. I could support that. I don't know how the council feels by adding one word to our vision statement, because I did mention to them that we wanted to keep these short and sweet so that we would remember them. But to me, the first three words of that is all I need for that vision statement. And I think, Larry, you've mentioned that more and more, but since we've added a few words, that committee would feel very comfortable. We could add that word sustainable after the word vibrant. I don't know if this is the time or place, but I'll mention that now.
Can I respond to Mark? I exactly know what you mean. I did mention to Arthur about the word prosperous. I wasn't sure who's going to get prosperous from this, the township or the people. And by replacing prosperous with sustainable would be appropriate for me. And I think, here we are today going to approve this. And, you know, it's difficult. There's so much voluminous information coming through, but I think the committee or the group that's worked on this has done a phenomenal job of doing it. But I think before we pass it, that one word replacing prosperous with sustainable, I think would be a good idea. And the other thing is, if I may, before we approve and publish, is that making life better be bolded. And the one line in mission to provide effective and efficient services is to be bolded. The rest is just fine, but by bolding it, you make those two comments, making life better and provide effective and efficient services is what we should be doing to deliver that, making life better. So, as I said, I wasn't going to get into a dissertation, but I would agree with Mark that we replace prosperous with sustainable.
Just for clarity, they didn't ask to replace prosperous. I'm with you on that. I never liked the word prosperous.
No, I hate it.
But they asked to add the word sustainable. So be vibrant, sustainable, and prosperous is what they asked to have happen. I'm happy to remove the word prosperous. I'm with you on that. I never liked that word.
So we are the authors of this document.
Absolutely. Take no, through Mayor Jim, we take no offense. The whole idea is that
So the question is the publisher willing to make the change?
Yeah.
So that we can be moving on and flourish.
Okay, where do we want to go from here? Arthur, I'm going to look to you. Obviously, as you're aware, and all of the committee is, all of council is, we do have motion. Pardon me? Okay, no, well, we will have a motion, okay?
Will.
I have a motion in front of me, which was to approve. Turning to our clerk, turning to our CAO and whoever else. How do we move forward with this conversation about the addition of a word? At one point in time, it was the substitution of a word. How do we move forward? How do we want to move forward? Arthur, I guess I'm looking at you first in relationship to your time objective goals, and then probably turning to Daphne in respect to process.
so. So the edits themselves are not major, certainly the bolder ones, the bolding, highlighting of the provisions in the mission and vision are very easy to do. We still have a draft that's not been adopted by council by resolution as of yet, or instruction to carry out. So this is the time to do that. We didn't want to do too many changes before because this was the one this is the draft we were working. So this would be the time to make those changes. And the other one is with respect to vibrant and sustainable versus vibrant, sustainable, and prosperous. If you ask me on an editing point of view, I would probably say vibrant and sustainable township and keep it simpler from that perspective. Because you can be prosperous.
Positive comments to that.
You can be prosperous and sustainable and vibrant. In other words, like the word prosperous at that point can get basically engulfed in the other two terms.
Yes. The thing I don't like about prosperous is it makes us look like we're going to be raising taxes to make us prosperous here at the township level. Unfortunately, some people read it that way. I know you're trying to get it across another way, but that's the way.
It is a word you can read many things into, whether it's prosperous in the sense of your relationships and all kinds of things. So it's not purely a development economic, but by putting in vibrant and sustainable township, we are all proud to call home, keeps it in that more to sort of a straightforward vision. And I think that we can, if Emily hasn't already edited it, we can probably work with that and present that.
I'm happy with that.
So you will see those. you could make the
Okay.
direction through your Mayor
Okay.
Jib, you could probably coming to a similar conclusion. You can make the direction to say that you direct us to implement as amended or as updated, as discussed, something to that effect, and then we could carry forward.
I gotta get over here to see it.
Good to you.
Arthur, does that complete the report, your report at this point in time?
Other than to say thank you to the staff. And you see many of them behind me who have made an incredible effort to contribute to the success of this project. Emily as well being integral to the success. And of course, you as council providing your time and your insights in the document that we finally have. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Arthur. Okay, I'm gonna move to a motion here. In reading it. The Council of the Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows, that the council receives report CAO 2023-04, strategic planning for the Township of Hamilton, and council adopts the plan as the new strategic plan for the township and directs the CAO to proceed with the implementation and reporting as outlined in the document with the following edits. Bold and change the prosperous to sustainable.
Oh, yep.
And that's not quite as nice as the English that we're going to have here in a minute, but that's the intent of the motion. Moved by Mark, seconded by Bruce. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you.
My thanks as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Emergency services 16.1 noise, actually, we have two noise bylaw exemptions. BLW 2023-03 noise bylaw exemption request. It is recommended that the corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council receives report BLW 2023-03 noise bylaw exemption request for information, and the council approves the request from Douglas Butler for the exemption of noise bylaw 2014-36 to permit amplified music for an event August 5th, 2023 until 11 p.m. Could I have a motion, please, to put this on the floor? Moved by John, second by Larry. Questions or comments? Just for clarity, Tim, could you tell us the normal time frame of the 11 o'clock would normally be?
Sorry, pardon me, Mayor.
The 11 o'clock, the extension to 11 o'clock
Would
PM,
normally be from 7.
7 o'clock. Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. 16.2 noise bylaw exemption 2023-04 is recommended the Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council receives report BLW 2023-04 noise bylaw exemption request for information, and the council approves the request from Alicia. I'm not going to try the last name for the exemption of noise bylaw 2014-36 to permit amplified music for a wedding celebration September 9th, 2023 until 1 a.m. September 10th, 2023. Motion to put it on the floor, please. Moved by John, second by Mark. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I will ask one to staff. This is a residential subdivision,
That is correct.
and there are quite a number of homes within a short distance.
Correct.
In reading the incoming request, I noted that the property owners stated they had spoken to their neighbors. In this particular case, I wonder what neighbor means and how far widespread is at least the notification of the wedding.
Excellent question. I wish we had the applicant here to answer that. I can have a discussion right now. I would imagine they're associated neighbors in close proximity on their court. Not across the road into its Cap Wilson Deerfield area. If council wishes, we can ask them to extend notification further just because it is in a higher populated area.
Any further questions? Comment?
Through your worship, I think more than likely these people have gone to the extent of notifying their neighbors about the information, about the date, time, etc. And I imagine they probably invited the wedding as well, so. That's how it usually goes.
Well, they certainly have been forthright in their request for extension. And their incoming letter did indicate that they were sharing the information, so. If there's no further questions or comments, we do have a motion on the floor, and we do have it seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bouncing to 18.1 under bylaws, being bylaw 2023-39. Execute agreement with AWK Mechanical and Plumbing. It is recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. That bylaw 2023-39 being a bylaw to sign and execute an agreement between the township and AWK Mechanical and Plumbing for $86,250 be given first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 20th day of June 2023. Mover, please. Larry, seconder, Bruce. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Notice of motion, seeing none. Media questions on agenda items, none. Closed session, none. Reporting other closed session, none. Notice is required by notice bylaw, none. Confirmatory bylaw. It is recommended the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows: that bylaw 2023-40 being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of council meeting held the 20th day of June 2023 and to authorize its execution be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 20th day of June 2023. Motion, please. Bruce, seconder. John, questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Item 25 is recommended the Council of the Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows: that the regular council meeting held on June 20th, 2023 be adjourned at 3:32 p.m. Mark, seconder. Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.